Does your examiner care about you, your issue, or just them? Stay tuned. Welcome to Inside the Polygraph. I'm your host, David Goldberg, expert polygraph examiner. Join me as I and my guests break down the facts, fictions of polygraph testing, law enforcement, and so much more. Real cases, real conversations. The truth is always revealed inside the polygraph. Hi, welcome to Inside the Polygraph. I'm your host, David Goldberg. I hope you're enjoying all the episodes that we've put out, and I am really grateful for all the listeners. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about how polygraphs help the prosecution and defense in their clients' cases. So let's delve deep into this subject matter. But before we start, as always, I like to put out a disclaimer. One, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not a legal representative. If you have a very serious legal matter that you are in trouble and are facing any type of legal issues, whether it's civil and or criminal, you need to go seek legal advice from a licensed attorney or representative and get them to help you. This platform and all information provided is for educational purposes, but it is also with 24 and a half years of experience helping thousands of individuals with my expertise in helping individuals with their important matter. Let's dive deep into this subject matter. I'm going to break another myth, ladies and gentlemen, that once again, polygraphs can't be used in courts. Once again, they can be. And I've heard it over and over and over again, and I've read the comments and I get it. They can't be used, pseudoscience, they're bullshit, all that. But let me explain something to you, ladies and gentlemen. Those that put those kind of negative comments are those most likely who have been dicked, ruined their careers, ruined their lives by some of the most inexperienced, unempathetic, unethical, and immoral polygraph examiners that you probably have sought out to resolve your most important issues. And afterwards, you've gotten results that have ultimately ruined your life, your relationships, your dream job, and anything else that you went to go seek that examiner for. And what happens afterwards, ladies and gentlemen? You have a bad taste in your mouth in reference to polygraph examinations. But let's do the flip side. Those that get proper results, that get total closure, and get vindicated with things that have troubled them or get adjudicated in legal matters and get either their custody back from their children or have never lost custody or get cases dismissed or win civil matters or get their jobs back or any issue you can possibly think of, and they do it because they've taken a qualified, certified polygraph with an experienced examiner that is empathetic, understanding, and has the skills and credibility, like myself. Those individuals don't write shitty comments that polygraphs suck, they can't be used, because they've sought at and sought after the most experienced examiner out there that understands their issues and will do whatever it takes to help that person. That, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what I do for each and every client that comes in my office. But let's talk about how the polygraph can be utilized both for the prosecution and both for the defense. Let's start with the prosecution. First and foremost, you have to have an issue that is of criminal matter that will be utilized against you. When that happens, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, if in fact you, and I say you if you're watching, you committed a criminal act, whatever it is, whether it's seriously heinous, murder, rape, robbery, sexual assault, or a malicious wounding or shooting or whatever, and then you get identified and you get picked up and then you get brought to the police station and then you get interviewed and they offer you a polygraph test in the police station and you say yes, and then ultimately you fail that polygraph test or information is ascertained, that polygraph test is then put in a nice packet, sent over to the district attorney, the prosecution, the Commonwealth attorney, whatever state the prosecution is called, and then they may try and utilize that, obviously, as evidence against you in a court of law, depending on how they present it as evidence. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how prosecution uses it in their cases in courts. On the flip side, how does a defense attorney utilize the polygraph? They normally would hire an experienced polygraph examiner, not one that does entertainment polygraphs, not one that has no experience in doing polygraphs other than for TV, joking around, making fun of people for ratings or anything of that nature, but real serious examiners that help people. And then they would send the client to that examiner. That examiner would get the facts of the case, whether it is all discovery material, would review that material, and then would then provide those questions to the individual taking the test, review those test questions, verify whether or not the criminal act ever occurred, and then test and verify statements that are made by the examinee, and then give the results to the examinee that day, and then provide a very detailed report to the defense attorney. Then what happens, ladies and gentlemen, if in fact that examinee is 100% innocent of all allegations or criminal charges, that defense attorney, if they are very good at what they do, and there's many of them out there, and I'm talking to you, attorneys, if you are one of them who is one of my followers and listeners, you know your skills, and what you will do is you will turn over the polygraph report as evidence in discovery to the prosecution. And a lot of times it depends on the relationship that these attorneys have with the prosecution. And sometimes prosecuting attorneys who have good relationships with defense attorneys will entertain the results of that polygraph. Sometimes you have prosecuting attorneys that are dead fast, no way, no how, not going to accept it. We're going to fry this individual at all costs, no matter what. We believe everything that our witnesses, everything that law enforcement did. We have blinders on. We're not going to entertain nothing, and that's it. Whereas the defense says, okay, well, we're going to try to put this in, and we're going to let the judge make the ultimate decision as to this polygraph report. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what I'm trying to get across to you. Polygraph reports what is said, what is found, the facts of evidence that is given to the examiner, what is verified through the discovery of evidence on the polygraph, that, ladies and gentlemen, will be able to be presented in a court of law. And what is up to any evidence is up to the judge. And that goes throughout the entire country. So if the judge entertains that polygraph report after they read it and they decide, you know what, I'm going to allow this examiner to testify on a limited basis and testify to certain things in that polygraph report, or testify to the entire interview process and everything that's in that report, that, ladies and gentlemen, is how the polygraph gets in. And I'm going to tell you here, right now, I can't tell you enough how many times I have been subpoenaed based on my expert experience as a polygraph examiner for multiple cases in a court of law, both in juvenile, domestic, criminal, circuit court, and federal court, and in the United States military courts and hearings for the polygraph examinations that I have administered for both prosecution and defense. So I'm not a paid, hired hand that just because someone pays me, you're going to pass. Or just because someone doesn't pay me, I'm going to fail you. Doesn't work that way with me, ladies and gentlemen. It will with unethical examiners that do get hired with certain attorneys or certain individuals. But with me, you're going to get the real facts, the real answers, one way or the other. And the attorneys that hire me, they know that, and that's why they hire me, because they want the truth. They don't want to go in front of the judge and look like a buffoon because they believe their client, but yet their client is exactly lying to them the entire time, when they could find out the real truth and then defend their client in a different manner, instead of saying, oh, my client's innocent, my client's this, my client's that, when all along they could probably get maybe a better deal with their client, knowing the real honest facts. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm hired, because I get the truth, I get the facts to help attorneys, prosecution or defense, in reference to what's really happened. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, in life, there's two sides to every story, and it's not always black and white. There are some shades of gray, and there are some shades of white that's not pure white. And in a story, it must be found, and it must be found total truth, because there's a lot of innocent, and I'll say this right now, there's a lot of innocent individuals that are falsely accused and are currently incarcerated because of false witness identification, false witness testimony, and poor law enforcement investigations, and quick judgment, and poor prosecution. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why our jails are overcrowded. That's why, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of people that are currently incarcerated wrongly. And you see this, after 30 years, someone gets out who has been wrongly identified, and now they have to be paid millions and millions of dollars of tax money. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's why I do my job so diligently. Not always, just because someone takes a polygraph, whether it's for the prosecution and or for defense, will be accepted. However, if you're criminally charged or under investigation, why would you not want to take the chance of getting a polygraph test, whether it's privately, to find out if you're so innocent, and help your attorney try to utilize that examination with one extra piece of evidence that's going to crush whatever evidence they say they have, when in fact you don't take one, and now it might just be your word against their word. Sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, the evidence or the witness statement on one side is believed just a little bit more than you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where people are falsely convicted. And I've seen it over and over and over again. And I'm going to be telling you a few stories as to just that. So if you are in that kind of situation, ladies and gentlemen, don't poo-poo and blow off polygraphs and say, can't be used, it's bullshit, whatever. Seek out the most qualified, empathetic, ethical polygraph examiner there is, like myself. I'm not going to not say me, but I'm going to say me, out there, who has experience, who has reviews, who has professional recommendations, and who has a winning caseload of clients who have been adjudicated freely, walk this country without ever being convicted, who have gotten their children back, who have gotten their life in order, all because of many factors. Obviously, their professional attorney, the polygraph they've taken, and the lying witnesses that were proven that they were lying. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is what you need to consider if you've ever been accused of something falsely, or you're currently going through something. You don't even have to be criminally accused or investigated. If you're ever in that kind of situation, stand up for yourself and take a polygraph. It won't hurt you unless, I'm going to say it again, unless you find an idiot, unethical, unempathetic, bonehead examiner who doesn't care about your issue, only cares about the money that you're going to pay them, and who does nothing but TV, talk show, bullshit examinations. Those are the idiots you want to stay away from. Have you been accused of one of the following in your life, such as infidelity, custody matters, CPS investigations, or serious criminal matters that you're currently being investigated for? At Executive Protection Group Polygraph Service, we have been helping thousands of individuals for over 24 years, no matter who you are or what you have been accused of, with the highest accuracy, integrity, and overall compassion to everyone's needs. We are not your typical polygraph or lie detection service. At Executive Protection Group Polygraph Service, we are certified experts recognized in courts throughout the country, and we stand by our promise to give you full closure and all your needed answers. Call at 757-495-1301 and visit our website at www.executiveprotectiongrp.com to get started. Let me explain some stories for you, and let me tell you, these are very, very serious allegations and criminal charges and successful stories. Let's talk about this, and I'm not mentioning any names, but this individual was a convicted sex offender. After he served his time, he got out, got on probation, did his probation very, very well, and he had to go to the bathroom. He went inside a McDonald's where he was permitted, but the McDonald's was crowded with parents and children. The bathroom was absolutely packed to the gill. He couldn't wait any longer, so he exited the McDonald's and had to go to the bathroom so badly. When he exited the bathroom, there were some bushes near the McDonald's, not in the parking lot, and he happened to relieve himself. A law enforcement officer was patrolling the area, happened to see the guy, stopped him, identified the guy, and when he typed him up, saw that he was a convicted sex offender and charged him with urinating in public. When the prosecution saw that he was urinating in public, they wanted to upgrade that charge and recharge him and basically say that he now needs to be charged with violating his probation because he urinated near children intentionally because he was a convicted sex offender. This individual was adamant, no way, didn't do it, would never do something like that. The children was never on his radar, nothing like that, adamant. He hired a professional attorney. The attorney had hired me. I tested him and proved that this individual did not, under any circumstances, intentionally urinate to offend or attempt to offend children, or was doing it for sexual arousal purposes, and he passed. His attorney sent it to the prosecution. Prosecution didn't want to hear it. They then were going full bore with it, and at first they said we're going to charge him in the lower courts, but then it went all the way up to where it went federal for some reason, and the U.S. Attorney took it over, and that's where I came into play, and I was actually subpoenaed, and I testified. The judge allowed this polygraph to get in, meaning my report. I testified, and he was ultimately vindicated where the charges were absolutely dismissed. Several weeks later, after he was dismissed, I got a very, very, very nice letter from that man. And I'll briefly tell you what that letter said. And it basically said, "Dear Mr. Goldberg, you have no idea what your skills and what you did for me. You have given my life back where I thought I was facing 15 years for a violation I know I did not do. You and your belief in me when you tested have gone so far in helping me that I can now not have to look behind my back, and I can move forward in my life. I am very grateful to you. I will always be grateful to you, and may God bless you." And there was more and more in that letter, but that was basically the gist. And it felt very good that I knew I helped someone move on in life. But he did it himself. I don't have to help anyone pass a test. They do it on their own accord. But here's the other caveat. I don't have to help any bonehead idiot fail a test either. They do it on their own by lying and holding back information. But again, people fail a test when they go to unethical, immoral, inexperienced polygraph exam and examiners. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why people put bad comments on polygraphs. Let me tell you another great story. This individual was charged with malicious wounding, and ultimately the individual was shot and later died. He was adamant, no way, no how, I did not do it. However, ladies and gentlemen, an eyewitness said this individual was at this party. The individual was at the location prior, meaning hours before the shooting, before the party got all ramped up and wild. He was there. However, he had left to go get his girlfriend from work. He was charged because of the eyewitness. Police didn't look any further after the eyewitness said they saw him. They didn't go any further with looking for other witnesses. They chose that witness's testimony, and that was it. His attorney chose to hire me. I tested not the person that was charged. I tested his girlfriend for an alibi witness statement to verify. And here is what was really good. The prosecution said, should this alibi individual really do well, they would consider listening to more and further investigate. Well, again, I'm not going to just pass anyone. This person really took an extensive polygraph test in reference to the alibi. The alibi test was extensive, and she passed. The attorney took this information, passed it on to the prosecuting attorney. Lo and behold, had the investigators continue to look for other witnesses. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They found the person that really did the actual murder. They dropped the charges, dismissed the charges on the original person that they charged, and the alibi was in fact true, stuck, and they had no other choice but to dismiss the charge. This guy was facing 20 years to life for something he didn't do because why, ladies and gentlemen? Law enforcement had blinders on, and all they want to hear is one side of the story, and that's it. If someone is very convincing in witness statements, sometimes they don't want to look any further, and that's wrong. That's why that attorney, very smart, he said, we're going to go and get this girlfriend tested. The reason why he couldn't get tested, not that I haven't gone into a locked facility before, it was just more difficult to get that all set up, but that was not going to hinder because I would have gone there. Anyways, in closing, ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to know that if you're ever in need of a polygraph and you know it can help, do not sit and settle down on just your word against another person's word. Use every avenue to help you in any allegation, in any investigation, in any criminal matter. And for the attorneys that look and watch my videos, my podcasts, consider and take it serious, consider using a polygraph because it can ultimately help you and your client in their cases and ultimately help you not look like a fool or an idiot when you don't have the full facts of what your client is telling you, and you may be able to go in a different direction where you thought you needed to go this way when now you need to branch off and help your client even further. Because sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, as an examiner, I find out more witnesses, more evidence that the attorney may not have known and or law enforcement may not have known, and this can ultimately clear the individual's name. I hope this helps, and if you know you need my help, you know how to reach me. And if you like what I just put out, like, comment, and please subscribe. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Thanks so much for listening. If you truly liked what you heard today, please be sure to rate the show, share with others, and subscribe for more episodes.